In modern life, with the constant connectivity from work, family, and social relationships, we can easily get caught up in the whirlwind of always having to meet the needs of others. The endless messages, unexpected calls, and requests from all directions make us feel like we can never stop. The feeling of always needing to be present, always available for everyone can lead you to think that you are living fully and being loved. But the reality is quite the opposite. You are falling into a sweet yet dangerous trap, the trap of easy accessibility. This is not a simple phenomenon, but rather a profound consequence of unconscious decisions we make in our relationships with ourselves and others. The trap of easy accessibility not only leaves you feeling physically exhausted, but also severely impacts the peace within your soul. This is not caused by work or family. It stems from the lack of personal boundaries in life. You may have become so accustomed to always being there, always ready to respond to every request. But do you realize that each time you do this, you are not only giving away your time and energy, but also losing yourself? Easy accessibility makes you become a person of little value in the eyes of others, because being too available dulls the respect and expectations you wish to receive. We live in a world where being present and accessibility have become key factors in building relationships and earning the affection of others. However, are we giving away too much without receiving what we deserve in return? This not only makes you feel lost, but also creates relationships based on exploitation. Rather than true respect, you become a tool, a 24/7 service for those around you, without realizing that in this journey, you have gradually drifted away from yourself. These relationships do not build sustainable respect, but are based on dependence, exploitation, and ultimately emotional depletion. So, what is the solution? How do you escape this trap and build a more meaningful life? The answer lies in learning how to set clear boundaries, not only to protect yourself from others' encroachments, but also to build respect in your relationships. This is the first step in the journey to reclaim inner peace and true freedom. Only when you learn to say no strongly and firmly can you build a life worth living, where respect comes not only from the actions of others, but also from the respect you have for yourself. In the body of the text, we will delve into the important aspects of setting boundaries in life, explore the power of silence, and understand the importance of not always being present for others to know who you are and what you have to offer. 1. The trap of easy accessibility. We live in a society where ease of access is often celebrated as a virtue. People who can respond to every message, take every call, and always be there when others need them are often regarded as valuable, loved, and respected. However, a paradox lies hidden within this very behavior. The more accessible you are, the more you lose your true value. Think about it. Have you ever felt like you're always ready to fulfill others' requests, but in the end, you feel exhausted, like you're draining your energy without receiving the respect you truly deserve? This is the trap we don't notice, and it seems to get deeper and deeper. When you become the person who is always available, always meeting others' needs, you are turning yourself into a tool to be exploited by others. No longer being your true self, we are taught that to gain love and respect, we need to sacrifice, be ready to help, be trustworthy, and be there when others need us. However, this sacrifice doesn't always yield positive results. In fact, the easier you are to access, the less attractive and unique you become. The essence of easy accessibility is diminishing your own value, because when you're always available, when you're constantly ready to please others, you lose the preciousness of being unavailable. A great paradox in life is, the more you give, the less you receive. This might be hard to accept, but the reality is, if you are always present when others need you, they will no longer respect you because they take your presence for granted, no longer seeing anything unique or attractive about you. The trap is that the more you make yourself available, the more you work endlessly, the less you are appreciated. You become just a part of the bigger picture, and people no longer need to give special attention to you. This means that when you don't set boundaries, when you don't learn to protect yourself from the constant demands from the outside, you will always feel empty, drained, and unrewarded for the contributions you have made. Look around, and you will realize that those who are truly respected and admired are not the ones who are always present everywhere, but the ones who know how to maintain a certain distance, the ones who can say no when necessary and not fear displeasing others. These individuals don't live to please everyone, they live to respect themselves. This is the valuable lesson we need to learn. Respect comes from the boundaries you set. When you no longer become a tool for serving others' needs, when you no longer feel the pressure to always be present, you will begin to realize that you don't have to prove yourself by meeting every demand around you. You will no longer be someone who is exploited by others, you will be yourself. Respected and truly valuable. This respect doesn't come from being present when others need you, but from being able to create the right distance between yourself and the outside world. This doesn't mean you need to live in isolation, but that you must know when to show up and when to step back. The trap of easy accessibility is that you're always in the always present mode. And because of that, you no longer remain attractive or retain the value in your relationships. On the contrary, when you have a choice, when you actively create space between yourself and others, you will begin to realize that your absence is what makes others pay attention to you. When you're not always available, when you create space, your absence becomes the crucial factor for others to recognize your importance. Your silence becomes a more powerful message than any words. That's why, in this life, the price of easy accessibility is the loss of true respect. Those who don't respect themselves, those who are always ready to meet every request without thinking, ultimately become easy to exploit. They no longer are proactive in their own lives. They are just a part of the system that society or others demand. To escape this trap, you need to learn how to protect yourself, set clear boundaries, and never be afraid to say no when necessary. The trap of easy accessibility doesn't only come from always being there for others, but also from the way you view your own value. If you only evaluate your worth based on your presence in others' lives, you will always feel tired, drained, and lacking. But when you start viewing yourself differently, when you realize that your value doesn't depend on pleasing everyone, you will see your own strength. That strength comes from learning to respect yourself, to protect your energy, and to know when you should stay and when you should withdraw. Remember, easy accessibility doesn't make you strong, it only makes you a tool to be exploited by others. The only way to truly be strong and respected is to learn how to protect yourself, to know when you should show up and when you need to step back to preserve your energy and self-respect. By doing so, you will create a life full of meaning and not get caught up in relationships or jobs that are meaningless or without true value. 2. Accepting sacrifice and silence. When you begin to recognize the value of silence, you will gradually understand that silence is not about withdrawal or avoidance, it is a highly strategic choice. In the modern world, where everyone is busy, and the noise from work, relationships, and societal demands never ceases, silence is a precious asset. It is a space for you to face yourself, to filter information, to reflect, and to recharge. But to achieve this, you must accept one sacrifice, sacrificing participation in everything, sacrificing always being there when others need you, sacrificing the satisfaction of others. To embrace silence, you must dare to face the feeling of being unrequested, the being unrecognized. This is a sacrifice that not everyone is willing to make. We have been taught that pleasing everyone, always being ready to meet others' demands, will make us loved and respected. However, when you begin to refuse participation in everything, you will realize a painful truth: the dissatisfaction of others is not the worst thing. In fact, it is the inability to live for the satisfaction of others that is the only true way to live for yourself. Sacrificing others' satisfaction is a choice for achieving mental freedom, but not everyone has the courage to make it. When you start setting boundaries with the demands around you, you will feel a lighter burden, but it is also the moment you must face loneliness. This loneliness is not the absence of others, but the absence of yourself in a world where you've been accustomed to living for others. The price of detaching from the noise, from the constant participation in relationships and external work, is accepting this solitude. However, within that solitude, you will find clarity. In that quiet space, when there are no demands, no noise from praise or criticism, you will find yourself. Accepting sacrifice to enter silence is a powerful step, a decision not everyone dares to make, but it is the trade-off to find true freedom. You will no longer struggle to be loved or recognized, but you will live a self-directed life, independent of others' judgments. This sacrifice, though painful at first, brings liberation. While others chase consensus and societal acceptance, you will slowly realize that only when you live your own way, when you are not afraid to reject and not afraid of solitude, will you experience true freedom. This freedom is not from the absence of others but from the absence of expectations and prejudices. Sacrificing societal acceptance, responding to everyone's needs, is not just a difficult choice, but a courageous act. You will no longer do everything for others, no longer put yourself in others' shoes to satisfy their expectations. This requires you to accept the dissatisfaction of some people, to accept the loss of relationships that no longer bring genuine value. But when you look back, you will realize that it is this very sacrifice that helps you reconnect with yourself. When you begin practicing silence and sacrificing what is unnecessary, you will gradually understand that silence is not absence, it is the full presence of oneself. Silence is when you can listen to yourself, understand what you truly want, not just an unconditional response to outside demands. It is not rejecting everything but selectively separating what truly has value from what is merely superficial pleasing. Sacrificing participation in meaningless races or temporary relationships is the step to enter a different space, the space of maturity and mental freedom. You no longer live under the pressure of others. Instead, you find peace from within yourself, safety not from pleasing others, but from being able to stand firm even without anyone by your side. You no longer need to force yourself to be the person society expects. You are yourself, with all your flaws and unique beauty, and that is worth cherishing. The sacrifice in silence is a lifelong process, a journey that is not easy but is a crucial turning point to find true respect and the freedom no one can take away. You don't need to ask permission from anyone to live your life. You have created your own path. And while others are still chasing external things, you've built a solid inner world, a world where you have the power to decide everything, from your silence to your words. Accepting the sacrifice in silence is not about abandoning everything you cherish, but about letting go of dependency on things that no longer help you grow. It is an act of courage because you are not afraid of losing things that actually aren't valuable. When you dare to let go of energy-draining relationships, you open the door to deeper and more meaningful connections. In that silence, you will realize that you don't need to be present all the time to prove your worth. As long as you respect yourself, as long as you can stand firm in solitude without feeling lost, you have already won. Accepting this sacrifice is how you reconnect with yourself and create a life not dictated by outside forces, but entirely under your own control. Free, mastering silence, mastering relationships. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is a powerful tool, a space in which you can control both yourself and your relationships with the world around you. This silence is not about absence, rather, it is a deep, intentional presence. When you understand the power of silence, you will realize that it can be a means of mastering relationships, both with yourself and with others. This is not just about knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. It's also about maintaining calmness and control in any situation. Silence and emotional self-mastery. To master silence, you must first understand the essence of emotional self-mastery. People tend to react to situations in ways that they have been pre-programmed to do. But these reactions are often not conscious choices. Silence is a tool that allows you to stop reacting automatically and begin responding thoughtfully. You are no longer a puppet of your emotions and external influences. You become the one who masters the situation, the one who can actively control themselves. This does not mean that you must always remain silent in every situation. Rather, it means that you need the ability to recognize when silence is necessary, when it's time to speak up, and when it's best to stand still and observe. This silence allows you the space to think clearly, to analyze the situation objectively, and to make the best decision. Building relationships through silence. One area where silence becomes the most powerful tool is in relationships. Relationships are not only built through words, they are also formed through moments of silence. Silence is not absence, but presence in every moment. It's when you don't rush to respond to every word, when you don't try to please others, but allow silence to express itself. Surely, you found yourself in a situation where the more you try to explain or speak excessively, the more strained the relationship becomes. On the other hand, when you know how to maintain silence, giving the other person space to think and feel, the relationship can develop more positively. Silence is a form of respecting the other person's personal space, while also reminding yourself that a relationship doesn't always need to be controlled through words. Silence in relationships also helps you define your boundaries. You don't always have to respond to every request from others. You don't always have to be there when they need you. When you understand that silence does not make you weak, but actually makes you stronger, you will no longer feel pressured to meet all the expectations of others. It is this silence that helps affirm your own worth, while simultaneously creating a healthy space in relationships. The skill of knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. One of the most important skills in mastering silence is knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Knowing when to speak up helps you avoid unnecessary arguments, helping you not to engage in conversations that only drain your energy without adding real value. When you learn to recognize the critical moments to speak, you will discover that not every moment requires you to voice your opinion. Silence also allows you to understand and listen to others more deeply. Listening is one of the most important aspects of communication, and silence allows you to hear what's unsaid, the feelings and thoughts that haven't been expressed. When you listen through silence, you not only understand others better but also learn to respect their space and emotions. Silence in a noisy world, in a modern world full of noise, from work to relationships, from societal demands to social media, silence becomes a crucial element. Silence is the proactive control of your own space, a way to detach yourself from external demands and focus on what really matters. It is the time when you step into a world not dictated by outside influences, but a space where you control yourself and your emotions. Imagine your life without being caught up in every message, every call, every request from others. You don't always have to respond. You have the right to choose when to participate in a conversation, when to take time for yourself. When you live with silence as a part of your life, you not only protect your inner peace but also create a space that allows you to grow and live authentically. Silence and creating personal value. One of the most important things you will learn when mastering silence is that you will become more valuable in the eyes of others. Yes, your silence is a way to create personal value, not through words, but through how you maintain a strong presence that is not swayed by everything around you. When you are not easily accessible, when you don't always show up to meet every need, you become someone that others must appreciate because they will feel the absence of you, and that is the respect they give to you. It is this silence that creates attraction and respect in relationships. Those who truly respect you will not only assess you through your words but through how you hold your ground, how you know when to speak and when to remain silent. They will feel that you are someone of value, someone who knows how to choose and live with purpose, not someone who merely lives to please others. Mastering silence, mastering relationships. When you learn to master silence, you will begin to master not only external relationships but also your relationship with yourself. Silence is a tool to help you maintain your own integrity, not being swept away by the expectations or demands of others, and it is also a tool to build genuine, profound relationships. In this noisy and pressurized world, the ability to create a quiet space to reflect, to listen, and to grow will be the determining factor that helps you maintain inner peace and strength. Silence is not giving up, but asserting. When you choose silence, you are expressing inner strength, the ability to stand firm amidst life's storms. And within that silence, you will find yourself, and from there, you will be able to build meaningful, profound relationships, and most importantly, live the life you want, without depending on anyone else's approval. 4. The power of absence. In a world where constant presence is often seen as a measure of value, the concept of absence may seem foreign, even off-putting to many. However, what few realize is that within this absence lies a profound power, one that not everyone can perceive. Absence is a proactive strategy. When you choose absence, it is not an act of giving up or avoidance, but a proactive strategy to protect yourself, preventing life or others from excessively influencing you. Many people believe that constant presence will help them bond better and will make them more appreciated and respected. However, the opposite is true. When you are always present, you gradually become just another part of the endless flow of the ordinary. Something unremarkable, your presence becomes predictable, and it no longer makes others feel valued. Absence, on the other hand, creates a void, a space that others can feel. When you intentionally choose not to be present, you not only preserve your own personal space but also make your presence more valuable and worth waiting for. People begin to notice you more when you are not always there to please them. Absence and self-worth. When you are too often present, You lose your own value because you become too accessible and predictable. But when you know when to be present and when to be absent, you take control of your life and protect your worth. Absence is a reflection of self-respect and helps you set clear boundaries between external demands and your own needs. Those who respect themselves know when to be absent in order to maintain that respect. Certainly, one of the reasons many people feel insecure in life is their dependence on external validation. They constantly seek acceptance from others, and in the process, they lose sight of their own value. Protecting yourself by choosing to be absent when necessary is not a surrender but an action that shows maturity and commitment to protecting your own space and energy. Absence creates opportunities for personal growth. In a world where we are always faced with continuous connection, knowing when to be absent becomes a method for nurturing personal growth. This absence provides an opportunity to pause, reflect, and redefine what truly matters. Without absence, you will always be swept up in meaningless conversations, shallow relationships, and fruitless activities. Only when you know when to be absent can you find the time to reflect, restore your energy, and re-establish your life goals. Absence is not about giving up or being irresponsible. It is a proactive strategy to create space for yourself. It is a time for you to return to yourself, reassess the path you've been on, and make intelligent, purposeful choices for the next steps. Absence and setting clear boundaries. When you are absent in every situation, you are establishing a solid boundary for yourself. In a world filled with demands from every direction, knowing when to say no and when to step back helps you maintain stability and control. You no longer have to chase relationships or external demands and forget about yourself. By saying no, you create space to protect yourself from energy depletion and preserve inner peace. This does not mean you must avoid everything or live like a recluse. Rather, absence, the ability to decline when necessary, is the way you assert that you are not someone always available to meet everyone's demands. You can choose, you have the right to maintain personal space, and you can refuse demands that do not align with your values and goals. Absence and attraction from within. When you stop chasing presence or external recognition, you naturally begin to attract respect from others. Your silence is not emptiness, it is a presence filled with power. When you maintain space for yourself, when you are no longer running after consensus, you will notice that the respect from others will come naturally. Others will begin to sense your difference and will be drawn to your inherent value. Absence is not avoidance or evasion, it is an affirmation that you don't need to always be present to be noticed. You are the one who decides when to be present and when to be absent. And it is this control that gives value to your presence. Absence and freedom. Finally, absence helps you find true freedom in life. Freedom is not being able to go wherever you want without being bound. Rather, it is being able to create your own space, to decide when to engage and when to step back. It is the freedom to live authentically, the freedom to choose and control your energy and time. By understanding absence, you will realize that true freedom comes when you are no longer influenced by the crowd, no longer chasing societal demands you do not desire. Freedom is when you can stand firm in your own values without needing the approval of others. 5. Reassessing your self-worth. We live in a world where self-worth is often measured by society's standards. Every day, we find ourselves caught up in evaluations from work, relationships, and even societal norms of beauty, wealth, and success. However, these judgments do not always accurately reflect our true value. If we don't know how to reassess our self-worth, we become victims of unrealistic expectations, losing the ability to perceive ourselves clearly. The world values you for what you have, but you can value yourself for who you are. Every time we look around and see others achieving outstanding accomplishments and living the life they desire, we are easily inclined to compare ourselves to them and feel inadequate. We get caught up in social races where wealth, power, and visibility become the measures of a person's worth. But this is not the only way to evaluate self-worth. We are not defined by what we own, what others think of us, or what society evaluates us as. Our true worth lies in our essence, in who we are and how we relate to the world. When you stop looking at external things to define your worth, you'll begin to recognize the greatness that lies within yourself. Self-worth cannot be measured by someone else's standards. Why do we easily let others define us? When we receive compliments or recognition from others, many of us feel more valuable. However, If you live only by others' assessments, you'll live in a fake world, not truly being yourself. You become a shadow, constantly trying to meet the expectations from outside, forgetting the goal of living true to yourself. What is important is to realize that your worth does not depend on external validation. True worth comes from understanding yourself, from living according to the goals and values you have defined. Don't let yourself be swept away by society's standards or other people's judgments. Learn to assess yourself from within, based on the qualities and actions you take pride in. Self-assessment. Set your own standards. One way to reassess your self-worth is by setting your own standards. Instead of letting society or others set them for you, set life goals based on the values that you truly respect and wish to pursue. Don't live according to others' expectations. Live according to what you truly desire, even if it's different from what society expects. These standards are not meant to be achieved perfectly. They are guiding principles that help you move forward. You may not achieve everything fully, but striving toward these personal values will help you feel more satisfied and confident about yourself. You'll realize that real success is not about completing everything but about following your own path. Personal development is an ongoing process. Self-worth is not something fixed. It's not a milestone that you achieve and keep forever. Your worth changes and develops over time, especially as you continue to learn and grow. Every stage of life brings challenges and new opportunities for growth, allowing you to have a clearer understanding of yourself. As you change and grow, your worth will also change. Don't fear this change, because it's a sign of maturity. Instead of trying to maintain what's old, embrace the new opportunities to grow and learn. Sometimes, learning from mistakes and failures helps you realize your true worth. When you are willing to learn and grow, you'll understand that self-worth is not a fixed result but an ongoing process. Freedom in accepting imperfection. One of the most important aspects of reassessing your self-worth is learning to accept your own imperfections. Everyone has flaws, mistakes, and things that aren't perfect, but it is these imperfections that make us unique. If you keep chasing an ideal of perfection, you'll never feel satisfied with yourself. Accepting imperfection does not mean giving up on striving, but recognizing that in the process of growth, failures and flaws are natural and valuable parts of the development journey. Assessing yourself by actions, not words. Finally, to reassess your self-worth, you need to look at your actions. Words can easily be forgotten, but actions always leave a mark. You can say you have value, claim that you are capable, but if there are no specific actions to back it up, your words are just empty. Show the world your worth through what you do every day, through the decisions you make, and through the efforts you put in. Self-worth cannot be measured by words or compliments from others. It must be assessed through what you actually achieve, through the tangible actions you take in your daily life. Every step you take, every decision you make, will reflect your true value. 6. Building respect through clear boundaries. Boundaries are one of the fundamental elements in maintaining and building respect in relationships. Yet few people truly understand their importance. In a world where connection, interaction, and social acceptance dominate, setting boundaries is not just a necessary act to protect oneself, but also a way to assert one's value. Why are boundaries important in building respect? Respect is not something that can be forced or demanded from others. It is a feeling built through actions, through how we treat ourselves and others. However, respect begins with recognizing our own value and protecting it by setting clear boundaries. When you know what is acceptable and what is not in a relationship, you automatically assert your value. Those around you, especially those who might try to take advantage of your easy accessibility, will immediately notice the change in how you respond and act. By setting boundaries, you send the message that you respect yourself and will not allow yourself to be violated or exploited. Personal boundaries as a way to protect your mental space. Boundaries are not just physical limits, they also encompass emotional, time, and energy boundaries. While we are often swept up in the whirlpool of work, relationships, and social obligations, we tend to overlook the need to protect our mental space. However, our mental space is where we recharge and grow. If we allow others to intrude upon this space without control, we will easily feel drained and lose our sense of safety. This is one of the reasons many people feel emotionally exhausted, even though it may not be due to work or specific responsibilities. Clear boundaries help maintain equality in relationships. In any relationship, whether friendship, love, or work, respect should always be the top priority. When you don't set clear boundaries, you create a situation where one side can exploit or occupy much of your energy, time, or emotions without realizing it. This creates an imbalance in the relationship, where one side constantly feels drained, exploited, or disrespected. Setting clear boundaries ensures that each person in the relationship has their own space to grow and does not have to worry about being violated. If you cannot say no when necessary, if you cannot demand respect for your time or privacy, you will always find yourself swept into other people's demands without consent. Over time, this imbalance will blur your true value in the eyes of others. Building boundaries is a process of learning and persistence. Setting boundaries is not something that can be done immediately or easily. It is a process of learning and trial and error, where you must face discomfort and sometimes resistance from others. One of the reasons many people do not set boundaries is because they fear displease others. Fear not being accepted, or fear being isolated. However, doing so will only lead to you continuing to sacrifice yourself and losing self-respect. Learning to say no gently but firmly is an important step in setting boundaries. This does not mean rejecting all requests or needs from others, but learning to balance your needs with those of others. Politely but firmly saying no helps protect yourself, while also showing others that you are a person of value and are not always ready to meet their demands. Persistence and courage in maintaining boundaries. Once you begin to set and maintain your boundaries, you will realize that the respect you receive will increase. However, this doesn't mean that people will immediately understand and respect the boundaries you set. At times, you will face resistance, even anger or disappointment from those around you. This is part of the process of maintaining boundaries, and you must have the patience and courage to not back down. When you maintain your boundaries, you will see that not only will you build respect from others, but you will also build respect from yourself. You will feel more confident, stronger, and you will have the energy to continue growing without feeling drained or losing yourself in the process. Boundaries is a powerful tool for reclaiming personal freedom. Boundaries are not only a way to protect yourself from intrusion, but also a powerful tool for reclaiming personal freedom. When you can set and maintain clear boundaries, you will realize that you no longer had to overwork or endure relationships that drain your energy. You can live a life full of freedom, creativity, and autonomy, without external intrusion diminishing it. Freedom is not just about being able to do whatever you want, but also about being able to create space for yourself and decide when to engage and when to step back. It is the freedom to live true to yourself, to choose, and to control your energy and time. By understanding the power of boundaries, you will realize that freedom comes when you are no longer controlled by crowds or the demands of society that you don't wish to fulfill. Freedom comes when you can stand firm in your own values without needing the approval of others. The importance of boundaries. Boundaries are one of the most important elements in protecting yourself, building respect, and maintaining freedom in life. Setting and maintaining clear boundaries not only helps you retain respect from others but also helps you protect your energy and peace of mind. It is a process of learning and persistence, a process that requires courage to face discomfort and resistance from others. However, when you accomplish this, you will realize that not only are you respecting yourself, but you are also bringing profound respect to every relationship in your life. When we realize that excessive availability only diminishes our self-worth and creates an endless cycle where respect and appreciation are replaced by dependence on easy access, we begin to recognize a painful truth: we have lost control of ourselves. Relationships without clear boundaries not only drain energy but also rob us of our inner freedom, making us feel like we are living for others instead of living for ourselves. Learning how to establish and protect personal boundaries is the first step in the journey of reclaiming ourselves. It's not just about saying no to external demands, but also about saying yes to ourselves. We need to learn to love and respect ourselves before we expect to receive that from others. When you know how to set clear boundaries, you not only protect your energy but also build sustainable respect in your relationships. In fact, a strong and genuine relationship can only form when both parties understand how to respect each other's limits and value personal space. Silence and absence are not signs of weakness or lack of concern. They are powerful strategies to maintain balance. In today's noisy and busy world, Moments of silence and absence can be powerful tools to protect yourself from intrusion and manipulation. When you understand and practice the power of silence, you not only control interactions but also control how you are perceived and treated by others. Finally, to live a truly fulfilling, free, and meaningful life, we must learn to reassess our self-worth and recognize the strength of independence and freedom. Only when we dare to stand firm in our own boundaries, refusing to be pulled into relationships and situations unworthy of us, can we truly live the life we desire. And when you learn to respect yourself, you will see that the world around you will begin to respect you in the way you truly deserve.